Welcome to the Clean Library Podcast, where content meets conscience. We believe there are millions of you readers out there desperately searching for a better way to find clean content. Each episode, we will introduce you to a new author of clean books, giving you, your family, and your friends clean options.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Clean Library Podcast. We are so excited to start Season 2 and jump in, get to know a lot of new authors this year. So thank you for being here. Today we are with special guest author Sofia Simpson. Sofia grew up moving constantly, never in one place more than 3 years. There was plenty of time to daydream during long car rides. College finally gave her a chance to study what she had always dreamed of doing, writing her young adult fantasy stories. She obtained a BA in journalism, married her handsome husband, and had 2 amazing sons. She's also the proud mother of a fluffy, not fat, cat, and a 100-pound dog who loves to chase said cat. A big believer in dreaming big, Sofia loves speaking to youth, encouraging them to find hope no matter what their life looks like. And Sofia is a daughter of the Lord first and foremost and finds inspiration with the stories like King David and Esther. Sofia, welcome and thank you for being with us today.
Yeah, thanks for having me. This is great.
Absolutely. So before we jump into getting to know you, we're going to read your 2 truths and a lie, and I'm going to introduce you to our scorekeeper. So usually I'm with co-host Brock, and we actually have a little contest going and keep score on who guesses the lie. Last season he won, so we're starting over. So we're 0-0. See if I can get ahead this year.
Okay.
All right. So first, I am learning to speak and read Greek. Second, I have been to 20 countries. And third, I am planning a Valentine's teen ball where everyone leaves with a clean book. That sounds like fun. All right. So we'll see if during our conversation I get any information that'll help me guess which one is the lie as we go.
Okay.
All right. So let's start out by telling us, in your bio, you said this is something that you've always dreamed of doing. What inspired this dream? Why did you want to write stories?
Honestly, I was working at a public library and I'd already gotten my degree in journalism. Decided I did not want to write short fiction or short stories or short anything. I liked the longer stories. But I was working at this public library as a teen librarian, and all these books were coming in full of just graphic sex, language, violence. And I was so horrified. I was like, there's got to be other options out here for these teens to read.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna write. I'm gonna start writing my own stories. I'm gonna write great stories for teens, and have great romances, all the fun things, except without all that stuff. So
Yeah.
I started writing. I wrote my first book back in 2000, published it in 2014, and then life just got in the way, and I had to take like a 10-year, almost a 10-year break, and then got back into it with my elemental series. So this is Terra, which is book 1 uh, of of my elemental series, and I have now had 3 books come out in that series and a novella. So
Okay.
I am now this is gonna tell you one of the truths, but I am now planning events like I used to do at the library. I used to plan teen
Mm-hmm.
events all the time where kids could just have a really good, wholesome, fun time doing something great with their peers. And
Yeah.
so I'm planning teen events under my author banner where every teen will leave with a clean book. So
That's awesome.
yeah. So my first event this month will be a ball on Valentine's Day night. So
So do you have help with like your city or your local library to help you sponsor these, or how are you making
no,
this happen?
I asked for private donations, and I'm ticketing the event so that I
Okay.
can because I have 5 signing authors and 3 booksellers that are going to be there providing these books, and I'm ticketing the event, it's $20 a ticket, and then part of the ticket will go towards the book fee, the book cost, and then the other part will go towards the cost of the putting the event together. So I'm just trying to keep costs down. I've partnered with quite a few different businesses to give me discounts, like a ballroom dance instructor who's going to give me a discount on teaching the kids all the fun dances. And
Yeah.
yeah, so a plant company, because it's a garden theme, and so I'm going to rent. She's giving me a discount on renting plants for the night. So yeah, so I've had a lot of help. I've had a lot of help.
Yeah. That sounds really cool. And planning that type of thing is a lot of work.
Mhm.
Um, so that's really cool that you're doing it. Are you getting some good response from the youth in your
Well,
area?
I just actually 2 days ago put out the flyers for this event.
Okay.
I'm posting them in different schools and at coffee shops and places all in downtown, my downtown local town, Lakeland. Um, so I haven't checked today to see if anybody has bought any tickets, but I just really started marketing it now. But I've been telling people about the event, and I've heard a lot of really good responses. People are really excited.
That's awesome. And there's just because there really isn't a lot of those types of activities anymore for teens to do.
Yeah.
It's hard to find good stuff like that. Um, I know my kids are now past the teen phase, but they were always complaining that there's nothing fun. They didn't want to go to the school sponsored events because it was felt like being at school again, and it
Yeah.
just that was like their main complaint wherever we were living at the time was there's just nothing for teens
Mhm.
that's that's fun to do. So that's really cool. I hope it goes really well, and
Yeah.
that it becomes a thing. It becomes something that kids look forward to
Yeah. I'm
and want to
hoping
participate in.
I'm hoping to work up to 4 events a year. I'm calling it
Hmm.
Kisses Only Teen Book Events, and so they'll all these
Okay.
events will be based on a book, and a book will be the theme. The theme of this book is Stephanie Garber's Once Upon a Broken Heart, so it's called the No Broken Hearts Teen Ball.
Okay.
And yeah, so that's my goal, and maybe even a book club for teens. That'd be really fun. I just miss working with the teens in my area,
Yeah.
and just miss being around them, and they're just so infectious and full of life. And
Yeah.
I'm pretty young at heart too, even though my kids are 21 and 18. I feel like I'm still a teenager at heart myself. So
Yeah. That's awesome. So tell us about this series that you've published.
yeah, so Terra is earth, wind, water, and fire users. And
Okay.
so to sum up the book one in one sentence, as one of Earth's guardians, a girl finds herself in a bond that might be the death of her. So she's an earth elemental. She finds she has a bond with a fire elemental, and they're each other's worst enemies. So she's thrilled. He's not. I mean, no, he's thrilled. She's not.
Okay.
And so it's their story. Book one is their story, and then book two moves into a crazy road trip where they have to cross all the clans, all the elementals are divided. And so they fight over their boundaries. So whenever they cross into another clan's territory, there's always conflict. So they're
Okay.
having to cross all these boundaries to get to this off the grid community. They have to find a safe place. And they're going to an upper Manitoba, Canada. And so on their way there, they hit all these problems. And then they get to this off the grid community, and there's a guy there who's a mixed elemental because a group, there's a group that if there's like an earth elemental and a fire elemental that get married, they're worried that they're going to match the prophecy, um,
Okay.
fulfill the prophecy, and so they kill off anybody who get any couples that are two different elements. So
Yeah.
there's this off the grid community in Canada, and um, there's couples hiding there from this group that have kids, and so these kids have mixed elementals. They're not only earth elementals or fire elementals, they could be both. So there's a guy in this community who's a mixed elemental, and he doesn't care that Vela has a bond with her soulmate. He wants her for himself. So then a love triangle is introduced in book 2. And then book
Okay.
3, she chooses her guy when she gets lost in the woods with this guy, and Link is trying to find her, and it's this whole story of him trying to find her, and before she does anything she'll regret.
Right.
So, and I'm writing
Cool.
book 4 right now. So book
Yeah.
4 will be out in June, and that'll complete the series. I do have a companion novel that I'm writing. But it's I've presented it to my writers group, this companion novel, and I feel like it's one of those touchy subjects that I could maybe ruffle some feathers. So this companion, and maybe you can tell me, are you a writer as well? Are you a writer?
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Okay.
Yeah.
So so the story is this human has spina bifida, which is
Okay.
a condition she's born with, a malformation of her spine. But it's low enough on her spine that she can walk with the aid of crutches.
Okay.
You meet her in book 1, and in this companion novel, she ends up under the care. Well, after she witnesses elementals doing their magic, doing their powers, and so they have to give her this poppy seed formula to erase her memories. But the
Okay.
problem with that, so the main character's brother comes along and he's the one who administers the poppy seed formula. But the problem is she takes so many medications that it counteracts the effects of the poppy seed formula. So it doesn't work on her. She remembers everything, but she's terrified to tell anyone that she remembers
Mm-hmm.
everything, because she's afraid that they'll do it to her and her mother again. So, and it's a very hard uh, powder to take. It causes seizures and convulsions, and so that was really hard on her body, and so she
Yeah.
doesn't want to take this again. So anyway, so Drew thinks that she forgets about him, and really she doesn't. And so he ends up being she ends up being under his care in this clinic that is state of the art, like heat therapy that can make her more mobile. It's not going to
Okay.
cure her, but it will help her mobility. And so he's a medical student, and he's trying to get clinical hours. So he's working there, and she ends up under his care. So they're thrown together. Well, sparks fly, and they end up having a connection, and he ends up wanting to heal her. And that's like taboo. You don't heal
Right.
humans, you heal only elementals. You can't let humans know about their powers. So, my conflict is that presented the story to my writers group, they they're like, why would he heal her and not other humans, and why is she so special? I'm like, well, he fell in love with her. Like,
Yeah.
is that not reason enough? And they're like, I had a comment in the manuscript where it said, you deserve to be healed. And I don't know, for some reason, this really like moved my writing group the wrong way, and they did not like the storyline. So I don't know. You can tell me if this is something that
Hmm.
would ruffle
And
feathers, that he would heal a human. And
interesting. I no, I don't see. I mean, that was the first thought that I have. If he fell in love with her and he has the power to heal her, of course he would want to.
right.
Um, I can definitely see a great storyline where other elementals don't want him to, or he has to fight, or they have to hide, or
That's exactly what happened.
however you
Yeah.
describe it. Yeah.
Yeah, that's exactly what
No,
happens.
um,
Okay, well,
I don't.
that makes me feel a little
Yeah.
bit better, because I was afraid to put this out there when I got my writing group. My writing group that I'm in, though, to be fair, is not a Christian writing group. These are people of all walks of life that come in there,
Okay.
and so I get a lot of different world views. Um,
Sure.
so I don't that might be why. That might be why I got that reaction. But I was really surprised. I was really surprised.
Yeah.
And I don't want to
And then
be bad, you know.
right. I mean, I can definitely see a like an inner conflict with him where he's feeling like feeling guilty maybe that he wants to heal her but not the others. Like that
Yeah,
seems
he
like a
did.
very valid,
Yeah.
yeah, very valid plot line
Okay.
so.
Okay. Well, that makes me feel better. I'm sorry. I kind of went down this
No, you're fine. And
huge different.
I mean, it that actually leads to a great point. Is one of the things we talk about is we're promoting authors of clean books, but that doesn't mean we're saying everyone is bad that doesn't want. People
Right.
have choices,
Right.
and I think that just shows that in this storyline there are going to there will be people who connect with it and like it, and people who don't, and that's okay.
Mm-hmm.
You know, there's some very commonly popular books that people love that I don't. So, and
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
fine. You know, um,
Well,
uh,
my main objective is just because I write for teens. I write young adult.
right,
But I have 35, 40, 50-year-old women and men reading my stories. So it's not like it's just for teens. Um,
right,
but my main objective is to protect the teens from the content that is just not not appropriate for them. It really scares me. I picked up a book by in the teen section by James Patterson.
hmm,
Beautiful cover, great blurb, brought it home. My husband's like, "You better read the review on that book." And I'm like, "Okay." I ended up finding out it had bestiality, it had rape, it had all kinds of stuff in this book. And I was like, this is in the teen section by a famous, well known author. Like, I just couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe that. I feel like that's criminal, honestly,
yeah.
to
And is this a new series of his?
I wanna say it was a hardcover, so that usually means
Probably, yeah,
it's brand new. Um, yeah, and
because he's done some teen series in the past that were okay. So
yeah,
that's
I don't
crazy.
know. I wasn't sure. Yeah, I never read anything of his, so,
It's been a long time. I that I've read anything of his, but there was I can't remember. Was it Maximum Ride? Did he do that series?
Mm. He did.
And
He did.
and that and from what I remember, it's been a long time, but from what I remember, that didn't have anything
And that's
crazy in it.
and that's the terrible thing about it is they come out the authors will come out 3, 4, I mean, sometimes up to 9, 10 books, and they're all clean. And then they suddenly come out with this book that's full of stuff. And it's like, wait a minute, you've developed a an audience of people who
Right.
like this clean material, and now you're gonna throw this stuff in there. So it makes it really hard to it makes it really hard for people to trust authors. Um,
Yeah.
you know,
R- right. And like, should I feel like if I ever wanted to write a book that was definitely not appropriate for younger, that I would want to use a pen name so that they wouldn't connect it to my normal,
mm,
you know.
hmm
Uh, that's surprising that he did that because I mean he definitely has adult books because he has a lot of thrillers and legal
yeah,
thrillers and stuff like that.
yeah,
They've got murderers and serial killers and all that stuff in it. But that's
yeah.
surprising that and it's a great point. I would pick it up expecting the same stuff that I've seen read from him in the past.
hmm
And
Right, right. Now, I did not read this book, so I can't tell you if it actually had all that stuff in there. I just read reviews about it. But I mean, usually people aren't going to lie about that kind of thing.
right.
It's usually pretty.
So how do you is that how you usually figure out whether or not a book is
Yeah,
appropriate to read is by going through reviews?
So I teach a class on how to find safe books for your teens in libraries and
Okay.
bookstores. And the number one thing I do is I go to the Amazon reviews and I look at those 1 and 2 star reviews. And I see, because that's usually where you'll find the complaints
Yeah.
about content. Um, and that's my go-to thing. There's also great websites out there that review these books, like Plugged In, Common Sense Media. Um, gosh, I'm trying to think. There, I have a list of like 6 or 7 uh, websites that do reviews, and so you can always save those in your phone, and then when you're in a bookstore or library, go to that page and then, plug in those
Yeah.
book titles and see if there's a review. Um, but yeah, usually you'll find the content, if there's disturbing content in those 1 and 2 star reviews. Or and another easy way to find these clean books is to, when you're reading the blurb, if you see words on there like spicy, sexy, sensual, uh, sizzling,
Hmm.
tempting, like any of those kind of, words, um, then you can pretty much guarantee there's going to be stuff in the book that
Yeah.
match that mood.
Yeah. Uh, it feels like that's actually one of the things that Brock and I have been working on is trying to figure this problem out, because even when you're reading, you're going through reviews and searching it, you're really dependent on, was there someone out there who read it and took the time to actually write a review on it,
Right.
and are there thousands of reviews you have to go through to find it? I think looking for the 1 and 2 stars is
Hmm.
a great way to whittle that down. But even like Common Sense Media, we had one, a very popular recent book that we decided to test. And like we went to Amazon, a bunch of different sites to see, and
Yeah.
on Common Sense Media, it said it was like appropriate for 14-year-olds, and it had graphic sex in it.
Ah,
And I was like, I thought I was like, that was one website I thought we could trust.
yeah.
Um,
Me too.
and so um, we actually announced at the end of last year that we're working on a rating system that will be automated and also comprehensive. Because that's the other problem is there are so many books released every year that the sites that are trying to do these reviews can only do so many books a year.
Yeah.
You know, so
Well,
how can we leverage technology to actually consume millions of books instead of
mhm.
dozens or hundreds?
I actually have an Instagram and a Facebook page that's called Books Need Ratings. It's the name of it, Books
Hmm.
Need Ratings. And I'm trying to get followers so that I can take this to my local media station, news station, and just I've taken it to my state senators, my state governor, and I'm like, hey, books need ratings. Everything has a rating on it. You have YouTube channels that have ratings, games that have ratings. But books are the only entertainment source out there that does not have rating system, and it's very scary. It's very scary
Yeah,
that's not a thing. It should be. It really should be. Publishers across the board should.
absolutely. And we agree with you. So we'll figure out our solution, and then you get the laws passed, and then we'll get them to contract with our solution.
Good. That's good. Yeah, because people will ask me. They're like, "How? Well, who would do it? Who would put that? Like, who would be behind that? Like, what
Yeah,
engine would you use?" And I'm like, I don't have answers. I just know we have a problem. Like,
right.
we
Right.
need
And we've
answers.
spent the last year figuring that out. And
Really.
we just, um,
That's awesome.
and I can send you a little bit more information on where we're at, but we just had a software engineer kind of test our system to see if it's workable, and it is. So now we're working on building it.
That's
Um,
awesome.
but and because the other problem we have is like they need to be, it has to be consistent. Every book needs to use the same.
Hmm.
It can't be biased. Someone who loves this genre is going to obviously excuse material that they might not excuse in a genre they don't love, and so it's got to be really objective and consistent in the way that it's done. So um because it's so, it takes so many steps and so much time that I think parents just don't have the time to do it.
No,
Right.
they can't read
um
every book. They can't read every book. And that's why I go to homeschool conventions. I sell my books there. And I must have talked to 200 people in Atlanta one weekend. And they were like, they just looked at me and they're like, what what is safe for my kid to read? And I'm like, I said, honestly, I really understand your frustration. I really do.
yeah.
Because there's I mean, not only do they not have time to read these books, they may not have even time to go and search these reviews either, you know?
Right.
And I just don't understand why they can't put and but the problem is you have, self-published authors that are putting out millions of books a year, and
Right.
how will they meet that industry standard too? But there's got to be a solution. There just has to be, because kids are being
Yeah.
introduced to things that are way, way too mature for their brains. I mean, they market young adult fiction to 12-year-olds, 12 to 18
Right.
year olds. And that's terrifying. So then you have
Yes.
parents that have 9-year-olds that are reading at a high school level, or 8-year-olds reading at a high school level, and they're getting their hands on these books. That's
Right.
that's criminal. Like, they don't need to be learning about oral sex and graphic sex and gory violence and celebrating violence. I mean, the stuff out there is just horrendous. It's horrendous.
Hmm.
So,
and and then just from the different interviews of authors we've done,
mhm,
we've found that even in the like authors that say, yeah, my stuff's clean, there's a very broad spectrum of a
mm,
person's definition of what that means.
mhm,
um,
mhm,
so even, yeah, even to the point where I feel like if I'm recommending a book to someone else who I know wants clean, I'm like, well, yeah, but is my standard the same as theirs? Or are they going to be mad at me if I say it's clean and then according to them it's not, or vice versa? And
mhm.
it,
True.
right, it's such a personal thing. And when we look at movie ratings, the
Mhm,
things that are allowed in a PG-13 movie today are completely different. Like the standards have
mhm.
changed. So can you even trust the rating systems that exist there?
That's true. That's true too. There's a lot for parents to be concerned about nowadays. There really
Yeah.
is. But I I'm like I said, I want to be on the front lines. I want to be on the front lines with not only providing clean content where you have great romances. In fact, I have a retractable banner that I take to my events, and it says, "You get all the kisses, but none of the rest." And
Uh-huh.
so I spell it out to people. You're gonna get kisses in my book, but that's all you'll see, and it
That's
will
it.
it honors God, and I honor God in all my stories, and the purity of marriage, and all of that. And I've had parents email me and just thank me for these stories, that they can trust
Yeah.
their child with my stories, that um, I'm not going to give them anything that they need to worry about. And so,
Right.
and in the class I teach on how to find a safe book for your child in a library or bookstore, I have like I want to make it into a PDF where I have a list of all of the authors that I know that do fall under that.
Yeah.
safe category. Because there's I feel like safe is a much better word than clean. Because like you
Uh,
said, clean can mean all kinds of things, but
yeah.
safe is kind of a stronger word. Even though clean should be what it should be. Like
Right. Right.
I
But yeah, and we've talked about it before that like we picked the word clean on
yeah,
purpose because it is such a I don't know it is something that you can discuss and argue about because what does that mean? But I like safe too. That's a good one.
yeah,
That's very
yeah. Um, so
well,
that's
and
my mission.
yeah, and I mean, and then you have people who are very particular on the sexual content in the book, but don't mind language so much, or
Right.
don't want violence, or don't want depictions of um, drug use or smoking, but are okay with so you have these different categories that people are sensitive to based on their belief systems and their experiences in life, and so
Well, that's
okay, it's safe from sex, but does it have this other thing in it?
Yeah.
You know?
That's why it's good to know your publishers. So I also have a list of publishers that you can pretty much guarantee their books will be in that safe category, safe and clean category. Um, but I have one publisher on there that writes edgy books. And so they're going to
Hmm.
have the drug use, they're going to have but it's from a Christian worldview. It's not
Yeah,
from the worldly worldview. And there's a very big difference there because in a
huge
Christian
difference.
worldview, you're going to get redemption. You're going to get the saving grace of Christ. You're going to get that story. They might
Right.
have fallen into those bad habits and those problems, but there's a way to come out of those problems and be redeemed from it all. And that's what this
Right.
publisher does. So,
Yeah, and there's it's very different when you approach a topic as this is a trial or struggle or something that you're working through or glorifying it.
right.
Very different.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's the fear I have with these teens. Like, what are they being fed? What
Hmm.
are, and this is not just a problem with the teen books. This is a problem with adult books too, which I'm sure you've come across many of that. Um, if it's an adult book, you really need to be careful because then
Oh yeah,
there's no holds bar. There's no hold bar.
right.
Like the fantasy section in the bookstore scares me. Frankly, it scares me because I have no idea what I'm going to pick up in that section. And I love
Hmm.
fantasy. So
Yeah,
here I have this genre that I absolutely love and that um, you've had people who have paved the way for these awesome fantasies to become like real, like C.S. Lewis and J.R. Tolkien, and you've got great authors that have written these fantastic fantasy stories, and they're in the same category as some of these books that are coming out with all of this graphic stuff, and it's like, how is this possible that these are right next to each other?
I
It
feel
don't.
like they need to be in a back room behind a curtain.
Well, I mean, back when there was a Blockbuster, didn't they have sections like that? Like those
Yeah.
those really naughty movies and stuff were in a whole different section.
Yeah,
And
I had an author ask me to read his books to do a review,
mhm,
and my previous job was in law enforcement, and I did um, family and sexual violence crimes. So I've seen real life stuff, right? And this
yeah,
book was a crime thriller and everything,
mhm,
and it was so graphic. It was more graphic than reality. Like I was like, I've investigated these actual cases, and your book is more graphic than it was in real life. So I had to tell him I can't finish it. I'm like, I
yeah,
don't. This is worse than when I was doing it for real. like,
yes,
uh,
right,
and and my feedback to him, I said, I'm not going to leave a review because I'm not going to finish the book, but
yeah,
you, this is just it's almost it felt like you put it in there just for the sake of putting it in there. It does nothing it doesn't add to the story. It's not necessary.
Mm-hmm.
It's like just you're trying to shock your reader, and well, you did, and I'm not going to finish the book, so
Yeah.
sorry, you know.
Yeah.
But
I recently had someone who gave me their book to read, and she's like, she normally writes romance, but she said, I
mhm,
have a clean book that I just came out with. No, sweet. She called it sweet because sweet is also
okay,
another term for romance. That's going
right,
to
yeah,
be none of this stuff on there. And within 10 pages, I was like, I had to tell her, you can't market this as sweet. You can't. Like it's
yeah,
there's body descriptions in here that would not be in a sweet book. There's language, there's all kinds of stuff. So like you said, people have very different ideas of what sweet, clean reads are,
yeah.
and I don't know. How do you fight that? How do you combat that?
Because in the romance genre, they have almost this entire vocabulary
Yeah.
of
Yeah.
peppers and spicy and
Yeah.
sweet and
Yeah.
yet it's still arbitrary. An author gets to choose which of those words they want to use. There's no control over that.
There's no
So
industry standard. There's no industry
right,
standard telling them what they can or cannot say about that book. But I will. I did tell my writer friend. I said, "Look, I said you're going to get if you try to market this as sweet. I said, and the sweet community picks this book up. They're gonna blast you.
tear you.
They're
Yeah, they'll
they're
tear you
gonna go
apart.
after you on social media and stuff. So I said, just take that sweet thing right off that description
Yeah,
um because that's our only defense as
right.
clean readers and sweet and for romance readers, the sweet genre. That's our only defense is we can go on there on Goodreads and Amazon and say this, tell you what they think. And that's why those 1 star reviews are so important
Hmm.
because it lets readers know what that content really is, no matter
Yeah.
what the author says.
And when I was probably early high school, teen, um, I was reading way above my grade level
Mhm.
anyway, but there was a guy I liked political thrillers and stuff, so it was hard to find ones that I could read. And there was a guy at church that recommended one to me that he should not have.
Wow.
And it was shocking as just a young kind of naive kid. Like he read this. He told me to read this. So
Yeah.
you have to be really careful. And he probably, just knowing him and thinking back, he probably didn't even think of that scene when
Mm.
he recommended it to me. Like it probably just didn't even cross his mind.
Yeah.
Um, Yet for me, it was like I still remember it decades later. That
Yeah.
was very traumatic for me. You know.
Yeah. It's imprinted. And that's why when I was a librarian in the public library, I decided to write books because I'm like, I've got to provide stuff that the kids can read. Here I am complaining about these books, and yet I'm not doing anything about it, when I have the ability to write these books. So, um, but it's worth it. It's absolutely worth it to be in, like I said, the front lines. I feel like we
Yeah.
should we should be there. The issue is getting the word out about your books, like getting people to know
Right.
about them and know that these are great books. They're great. They're great to read. And so, I'm trying to get into the homeschool communities. And so word usually spreads pretty quickly around
Yeah.
there.
That's cool.
Um,
Hmm.
I'm going to 2 homeschool conventions this year. In May, I'm going to Pigeon Forge, and then I'm going to the one in Kissimmee, Florida. So, um,
Cool.
I'm hoping to try my hand. It's not easy to get into those. The booth rentals are very expensive. So,
Hmm.
but I feel like it's worth it, um, just for exposure and just to give parents. I mean, you talk to these parents and they're nothing but grateful. Like it just
Yeah.
you leave feeling like you just you earned $1 million with that thank you,
Right.
and that's my mission. That's my goal um, to be one of those authors that you can trust, and
Right.
uh, and you can safely give my books to your team without any worries. Now, I will say, like, I do have elemental battles in my scenes, so it's not
Yeah.
like it's totally free of, maybe not questionable material, but there it's not a fluffy story, but neither is
Right.
Lord of the Rings, that
Right. Right.
has
Exactly.
battles there too. So I felt like it was okay to write those, and I just didn't make them gory, you know.
Yeah.
I'm
Well, I
sorry.
mean, you're fine. Uh, neither is the Bible, so
Right, right.
um, so, how many in this series is book four going to be the end, or do you have it? Do you know how many books it's going to be?
So book four will complete the series, but I do have that companion novel I told you about that's
Yeah.
in the series too, and then I have a novella. So there's going to be a total of 6 books in that series, in
Cool.
that world. So I will come
So,
out with.
working on book four, have you found it difficult to figure out how to wrap it up? And
Yeah, so you're trying to tell a really good story, but you're also wrapping up 4 books.
yeah,
I've never done that before. This is challenging. This is hard.
yeah,
So I'm already halfway through the book and I'm telling the story, trying to, have character. You're trying to make your characters still like engaging. You want to know, you want to be connected to them, but you're trying to move the story along too. So she's got to fulfill this whole prophecy and unite this entire world of elementals. They live separated, but her job
right,
as the chosen one is to unite the clans. So she's trying to unite all of the clans and under one banner, just as God intended for them to live. And so there's subplots going on in the story that have to be resolved too. So I'm trying
right.
to do the arch, and yeah, it's complicated, but and I'm not a plotter. I'm a
Uh
pantser.
huh.
So
Yeah,
I have not planned this story out. So I'm just praying every morning that God gives me the words and gives me the right plot for that day to finish, and yeah, and I have
yeah.
a deadline I've set for myself. So let's
I'm in
just.
the same boat. I'm writing book five, and it's the final book, and I'm finding it challenging because I want to not just resolve stuff, but make it good and exciting and memorable, and
Exactly.
yeah,
You want the reader to be turning the pages like crazy, right?
yeah, and not be angry at you when they finish.
Yeah. Well, I actually found there was a review that I had gotten on book 3 of my series, and she flat out said she did not like the main character. She said she found her unlikable. She found her annoying. Like she didn't agree with, and so she was really hoping that book 4 that I do a better job of character development with her. So she was actually on my street team, so I felt okay about contacting her, and I was
Yeah,
like, hey, would you mind beta reading book 4 before I put it out?
yeah,
And she said she's willing to do it. So I'm hoping she can maybe help me resolve those issues. Not everybody has felt that way, but I have heard a couple of complaints that my character might be a little whiny. So
okay,
I want those are things I want to iron out before I hit the publish button, you know.
yeah. Have her kind of have her kind of mature and develop
Yes.
before it ends. Yeah,
Well, she's
for sure.
17, so she has a lot to learn.
Yeah,
And she has a big job ahead of her. So she doesn't have an easy job, that's for sure. And neither do I.
Yeah, I've definitely found this final book to be the most challenging out of all of them to write.
Okay.
So
I feel
I'm
your pain. I really do.
I'm probably a third of the way through, I think,
Okay.
depending on how long it goes. But yeah,
Have you
it
plotted
started.
it out?
No, I'm not a plotter either.
Okay.
That's I tend to plot in my head section by section. So I
Mhm.
just quite haven't decided or been inspired which
Mhm.
direction like I know basically what I want to happen, but how to get there and stuff I'm just keep going back and forth on.
Yeah. Well, that's what I feel. I love that. That's the struggle with not being a plotter, but the magic of being a pantser, the magic of writing and just coming up with a storyline, like writing a sentence and saying, and just sitting back and saying that was just amazing. I never could have
Yeah,
planned that. I never could have figured that out if I had sat down and tried to write an outline. That just happened organically and it happened beautifully. And so the magic of writing is a beautiful thing. That's what I love about being a pantser. So
yeah,
I'm hungry for those moments every time they happen, you know.
yeah, for sure. I mean, I just introduced a new character that I had no plans, and now I'm excited.
Yeah.
So she just
Yeah.
came into the story, and now she's going to be a big part of it.
And
And
that's
if I had planned it, that would have never happened.
right. I know.
Yeah.
I know. That's
I
the
mean, and she even came to me with her name. Like it
wow.
wasn't even a question. Yeah. So
Mhm.
that is pretty cool experience. That it's hard to describe that experience to
It
someone
is
who's
hard.
never done it.
I
But
just call it I call it the magic of writing, the magic of pantsing.
yeah,
It's because it's a magical moment. It's not magic in the sense of magic. It's definitely like Holy Spirit inspired and breathed. Like
for sure.
It's the Lord inspiring you and giving you these ideas. Um, but to give it a fun name, I just call it the magic of pantsing because
Yeah,
it's it's what keeps me going. It's what keeps me writing every single day. You know, is
yeah,
to have
for
those really
sure.
fun moments where you surprise yourself or
Very
God
cool.
surprises you.
So where can people go um, to find the list that you've made of safe authors and your books and all the things that you've built?
Yeah, so I'm going to I have right now that whole presentation is on a PowerPoint and I'm going to turn it into a PDF. And I'm going to
Okay.
put it on my website so you'll be able to find it on sofiasimpson.com. So I'll have a list of publishers, a list of websites that review books, list of authors, um, and I will make that available on my website. So Sofia Simpson is with SOFIA, it's not a PH, but that it'll be there within the next 2-3 weeks. That's my goal.
Okay.
Hmm.
Cool. And we'll put your for everyone listening, we'll put that website in the show description so that you can link to it easily. So awesome. Well, we are out of time, but thank you so much for talking today. It's been a great conversation, and it's great to find people who are also trying to figure out how to make ratings or just
Hmm.
make them more accessible to the world. So I'm excited to see where you go with it, and we'll connect more on that. But before I need to go over your true truths and a lie again. Obviously, we figured one out.
Hmm.
All right, so we'll remind everyone. The first one was I am learning to speak and read Greek. I have been to 20 countries, and I am planning a Valentine's teen ball where everyone leaves with a clean book. So we can knock off three. Let's see. In your bio, you said that you moved a lot. So maybe you've been to 20 countries, or it could be 19, or it could be 21. Who knows? Learning to speak and read Greek is pretty specific. I don't know if I feel like I'm just rolling the dice on this one. I'm gonna say 20 countries is the lie.
It is a lie. You're right.
Oh, nice. Excellent.
Good job. Good job. I'm half Greek, so I'm trying to learn how to speak to my family in Greece.
Awesome. Have
Hmm.
you been?
I have. I have. I'm going this year in August, so I'm super excited to see my family again, taking my two boys back to Greece. And I can't wait. I have all kinds of cousins and family over there.
Sweet. They live on one of the islands, or are they in the
They're in Athens.
main in
Yeah,
Athens? Okay,
but they do.
cool.
They do have a beach house on not on an island, but on the beach. So
On
we
the
can go
beach.
there and enjoy the beach too.
Cool. I've spent some time in Crete for work, and then we've done a Greek cruise and stuff. But yeah, it's love it. Very cool place.
Yes.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for being on the show. It's been a
Thank
great conversation. And for everyone out there listening, if this is your first episode, go back and listen to all of the episodes in season 1. You'll meet a ton of great clean authors. And stay tuned, subscribe, share, so that you are able to meet a bunch of new authors and find a bunch of new books that you feel safe to read. So thank you for listening, and we'll catch you next time on the Clean Library Podcast.